15 August 1519, the beginning of a dream. It is important to know this date because it's the day that we celebrate. Pedro Arias Davila received from the King of España official doctrine for the fealty to be named Panama City. Panama City, Panama City. Welcome to Panama, bella ciudad. Ay, mi Panama. Bienvenidos a Panama. 15 August 1519, the beginning of a dream. It is important to know this date because it's the day that we celebrate. Pedro Arias Davila received from the King of España official doctrine for the fealty to be named Panama City, Panama City, Panama City. Welcome to Panama, bella ciudad, bella mi Panama. Bienvenidos a Panama. A fishing village it was formerly, right upon the coast of the sea. Cathedral tower built up toward the sky. You can hear that bell toll far and wide. At this time within the nation, there was a very small population. Only 100 people or so. First European settlement on Pacific coast. Panama City, Panama City. Welcome to Panama, bella ciudad, ay mi Panama. Bienvenidos a Panama. The Camino Real it paved the way, and in this Isthmus it had to stay all the way to Nombre de Dios. If you go now, you can hear them ghosts. Whoa! Riches came up out of Peru. Many ship and the pirates knew all the pearls, silver and gold. Panama City was Pacific stronghold. Then they crossed Panama by mule. Tropical diseases was very cruel. Finally arrived to Atlantic coast, departing for Spain from Nombre de Dios. Panama City, Panama City. Welcome to Panama, bella ciudad, ay mi Panama. Bienvenidos a Panama. 15 August 1519, the beginning of a dream. It is important you know this date because it's the day that we celebrate. 15 August 1519, the beginning of a dream. It is important to know this date because this the day that we celebrate. Panama City, Panama City. Welcome to Panama, bella ciudad, bella mi Panama. Bienvenidos a Panama, Panama City, Panama City. Oh, welcome to Panama, bella ciudad, ay mi Panama.
Welcome to Rapping with Rapscallions special episode. Every special episode gets even more special, and this time we had 2 weeks to prepare, so you guys better believe it's going to be a good one. This is Rapping with Rapscallions episode 21, Panama City, Panama, Republic of Panama. Talk to me, Joe. How you feeling?
What's going on, man? I'm feeling good. It's good to be here. Yes, we had 2 weeks to prepare, man. Incredible. We've had a lot of stuff happening this week. You know, we had Thanksgiving on Thursday, which, you know, I think a lot of people, you know, not everyone celebrates Thanksgiving, but it's always good to feel thankful, to feel gratitude. So I'm feeling thankful. I feel gratitude for the fact that we get to be here again today, man.
Yes.
Sharing with everyone.
Also very thankful to be back on the air. We had some technical difficulties last week, but we're back and we're swinging. If you guys listen to the intro of that song, it's a song by Shorty and Slim called Panama City. And who wrote that song, Joe? Why don't you tell the people?
It was a talented group of guys that go by the name of the Rapscallions.
Belleza. We wrote that in collaboration with Shorty and Slim.
That's right.
And we want to thank them. We want to give them a shout out. Also, they're coming out with a Christmas album, so keep your eyes out on that. And guess who collaborated with them on one of the songs in the Christmas album? Tell them, Joe.
It was a couple of talented guys who go by the name of the Rapscallions.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let me see if I can pull up. You can purchase the song Panama City. You can purchase it by going to SAS Panama. Let me see if I can put up that
I think it's
webpage.
saspanama.bandcamp, right?
That's it. saspanama.bandcamp. There it is. Panama City en español. And also there's Panama City in Inglés. And also you can get their complete discography.
Their complete discography?
They have every single album there. They've got the Aseo one that everyone loves. You got to go back. You can go way back. Check out the original one. You see it? Sharty and Slim.
That's insane.
Back in Life on Mango Street.
Man, it's like you can see them grow right before you're in your ears, because you can't see them. You can hear them grow.
They're growing in your ears and in your heart.
That's
Look
right.
at all these beautiful albums they have there. And also, I want to give thanks to someone else. Little Brown Dog Aviation is our first paid sponsor. He's also spayed because the Little Brown Dog, he's spayed and neutered responsibly.
Yes.
You can go to their website, littlebrowndog.aviation.com, and they have tons of Shorty and Slim merchandise, t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops, all different designs.
Onesies for the babies.
Onesies for the babies. Look at that Panama City one.
Oh,
beautiful.
snap.
And soon, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, guess who's going to be on there? Tell them, Joe.
It's a group of talented guys that go by the name of Rapscallions.
Those guys are blowing up, baby.
They're everywhere. It's fantastic.
I love it. Well, let's we started our Rapping with Rapscallions weekly wrap up. Do you have anything you'd like to add to that, my dear friend?
Just if I can give a shout out to DFC on TVN Pass. Got a project coming through which HB knows very well. DFC sketch comedy troupe. There's a show coming out on TVN Pass. It's an app owned by TVN, the Televisora Nacional. So download TVN Pass. Look for DFC. Right now there's a free sketch on there that you can watch and enjoy. It's called Café. It's about coffee. So if you like coffee and happiness, watch it. And then later on, you'll be able to purchase the complete first episode, $3.99. So the episode was supposed to come out on Friday, my friend. You and I were speaking about this, but it didn't come out on Friday. Such is life. Such is life. So I learned, again, I continue to learn continuously how important communication is.
Yes.
To our society. So let's keep communicating.
Always keep that communication strong.
That's right. But download TVN Pass on Google Play or the App Store and laugh. And
I suggest you all check that out. DFC, I have a long history of collaborating with them. One of the many things Joe and I have worked on together. They've been kind enough to, over the years, invite me to participate in different sketches and voiceovers and things like that. So the latest thing I worked with Joe on was to film one of the intro rap songs that he wrote to push that. So you can find that on his Instagram at Joe Mesquita.
Joe Mesquita, at Joe Mesquita. It's a promotional thing. It's called DFC TVN Pass. HB did the filming. He did the lighting. Full Rapscallions production. Check it out.
Yeah. That's what's kind of what inspired my little blue lighting there. So cheers. Black Friday, get your lights now. Oh
man. Or is it Black Friday or it's the Black Weekend or it's the weekend?
In Panama, it's like 2 weeks, 2 months. I don't know. They don't have Thanksgiving.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Blackness all over the place. So we've got some people tuning in. Let's see. We got some comments here. Sue Norman, she says, "Welcome back. You were missed. Thank you for being so patient with us, and thank you for tuning in. We definitely missed you guys too. Today, we're going to be talking about something very important. Very important. We're talking about Panama City, and we named the show today Panama City, Panama, Republic of Panama, just to reinforce how important it is. I'm a little bit clamped. I need a sip of my drink.
Hey, because you don't know. We might be talking to people and be like, "Oh, they're going to talk about Panama City, Florida. I went there for spring break." We're not talking about Panama City.
Negative. Not Panama City, Florida. We're talking about the Republic of Panama.
That's right.
Have you got eyes on the Instagram, people?
I've got eyes on the Instagrams, my friend.
Beautiful. Thank you. So let's get started, man. There's so much information about Panama. Everybody loves Panama. Everyone that's tuning in, I mean, we put out a flyer saying, we know you love Panama, but do you know all the history of Panama? Tune in about this amazing isthmus. And we got a great response to that flyer. So we have a big pair of shoes to fill, because Panama is just such an amazing place, and there's so much history. I get so excited that I'm kind of nervous about leaving certain things out. So we don't want to do that. So
no, not at all.
Joe and I took that extra time to go over our talking points, trying to be professional.
That's right. That's right.
Joe did a great job on that. And so we were talking about that, and we wanted to start off by just, what does Panama City mean to me? What does Panama City mean to you, Joe? Go ahead, take it away, baby.
What does Panama City mean to me? Do you want me to go in like the definition, historical definition, or what it means to my heart?
Well, I think that's a good place. A good place to start is the definition. There's a lot of definitions. A lot of definitions.
Yes, and earlier today we were discussing that, and HB writes to me, he's like, what does Panama mean? And then we were both like, depends on who you ask.
Exactly. There's so many definitions.
There's so many.
We even found a new one. We found a new one. I didn't know about that one.
No. No. But I think the most popular ones, the two most popular ones, are what? Abundance of fishes.
Yeah.
And what is it? Like the
land of butterflies. Land of butterflies. Or just in general, abundance.
I don't see butterflies. I mean, I see them when I go to like Gamboa and other places outside of the city, but I would love to see mad butterflies like outside.
True. You stop chopping everything down,
That's right.
So the new one we found is Panama means mudfish.
Mudfish.
Yeah, because of the mud flats in front of Panama City, that's going to come up later. One definition is mudfish. That was interesting. I didn't think we'd come across something interesting like that.
No, man, not at all. I mean, I certainly didn't know that. I knew about the fishes and the butterflies, but not mudfish.
Right?
So is it the land of the mudfish, or would it just be like
it's just mudfish?
The mudfish. So
mudfish.
People that live in Panama are mudfish.
Well, I mean, I think it's because if everyone recalls, there's the so-called Playa Mojón, where there's the waves over there that the Zonians used to go surf at. It's a huge mud flats, and that's going to come up later. It's very important to the history of Panama. We have a shout out to Lori Keller. Hola from Los Angeles. Eager to learn all about Panama. Enjoyed your interview with Mike Bolton. Thank you so much.
Boom.
Thanks for coming back. And please, if you guys are out there, let us know. If we gloss over something, give us a comment. There's so much to cover today.
Yeah. And I think going into this, first and foremost, I think the one thing HB and I can agree on is that we don't know everything.
Exactly. So we don't know everything. There's so much history. Panama has been so important to the world in so many different centuries and millennia that how can we cover it all in just 2 hours? So strap on your toupees, get yourself a little drinky poo. What are you having today, Joe?
I'm having a rum and coke today, my friend. I took it back to the basics. Rum and coke.
I'm having straight up abuelo. I'm just gonna take little sips of that. I have some water here, so I'm having rum with a little dash of water.
That sounds good, man. Sounds refreshing. Perfect for a rainy Sunday afternoon like the one that we are experiencing today. Without a doubt.
Indeed. So we talked about the different definitions that we were able to scout up. Let's go back to how do you feel? How are you feeling about what does Panama City mean to you?
Panama City means to me, man. I think there's one big word that comes to my mind when I think of Panama City. Other than the love that I feel for it, obviously, because I love Panama City, I think frustration comes to mind. Frustrating.
Yeah.
Because I love it so much. Yeah. There's a love within my soul, man. It's big. But then when things aren't the way that you think they should be, you get frustrated. And I think, we have the capacity to be such a big, wonderful city where everything is cool, but sometimes it isn't cool. But, it's where I grew up.
Lots of traffic.
That's right. Lots of traffic. Lots of traffic. Heat. Lots of heat. Yeah. Hey, I found out yesterday or 2 days ago, El Idan, cut off the water supply from the potabilizadora de Chilibre because they were doing some arreglos, some like they were fixing some things, and a whole bunch of this part of the city was without water, man. And I'm thinking, yo, we're in the year 2020, and we're still having problems with the potabilizadora de Chilibre.
Indeed.
Come on, man.
Yeah, so frustration, that's a common feeling of Panama, and it makes it extra frustrating because it's on the opposite end of our love of Panama City.
That's right.
Love of Panama. I grew up in the Canal Zone, so I think I have a little bit of a different point of view than most Panamanians. So I think it's unique. A lot of people tuning in are Zonians as well.
No doubt.
And going into the city was always fun. There's the common mystique that Zonians never left the Canal Zone. That might have been true for some individuals. I can tell you for my family, it was not. We very much enjoyed going to the city. That kind of changed during the dictatorship when I grew up.
Sure. For sure.
Just for safety reasons, we didn't go in the city. But, my great-great-grandfather came to Panama to work on the canal. And, we have property in the country, so Panama City, what does it mean to me? I mean, I chose to live here. So after having gone to study and trying a few places out, I was like, I'm going home. So I came back to Panama. I live in Casco Viejo, which is a new location of Panama City. There's Panama la Vieja, or Old Panama. And then there's Casco Viejo, which is the new part of Panama,
New Panama.
Yeah, right. We're going to go over that a little more in depth today, but I think we need to go back, Joe. Let's go back. Like way back.
We're going to go way back. HB, you're a man who knows all about geology and geological formations and rocks and stuff. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that,
Okay.
Panama's geological origins.
Okay, so
the formation. How were we impacted by it? What was happening? I see oceans, I see mists, I see darkness, I see rocks colliding.
It's madness. And when we talk about Panama is relatively young, geologically speaking. So it's only about 15 to 17 million years old.
It's teenagers.
Only, that's tiny. It's teenagers, a young boy,
That's right.
And back in the day of the original Panama, there was a northern continent and a southern continent. And then, very quickly over the course of a few million years, the Pacific tectonic plate collided with the Caribbean tectonic plate.
That's how it sounded.
And it's like stretch out that sound over like a million years, like this grinding. And then, one ocean that flowed in between these two continents ended up being cut off from each other.
What?
So, these volcanoes started erupting, and then mud started getting trapped there. And over the course of these millions and millions of years, geologically speaking, it's hard for me to even fathom that, But slowly but surely, this little Isthmus of Panama formed. And now, why is that important? We said that Panama has been important to the world on several different occasions. We got to think about it. Two land masses were connected. So all the animals that were on the north side and the south side started intermingling.
Man, they could be friends now.
They could be friends. They can get their thing. They get their hanky-panky. We don't have to have that birds and bees conversation right now, but
no, we don't. We'll do that
even more importantly, this ocean that was on flowing is now cut off. So then you have different currents. A lot of people know about the Gulf Stream going up. So this tiny formation 15 million years ago separated the oceans. So one ocean became two. It changed the weather patterns all over the world. And geologists say that's the most important geological activity in the past 15 million years.
What?
Yeah, it's just everything changed. The oceans were separated. The cooling and the warming effects that it had all over the world were significant. And that, in our limited knowledge of the history of Panama, is important occasion number one, the formation and how Panama changed the world, changed the oceans, changed land masses, climate, everything. People started migrating to South America. We don't want to get in on that because there's a lot of different theories going on in South America, Polynesian people landing and stuff like that. But anyway, moving right along. So we had this massive change, this earthly geological change about 15 million years ago. And I need to take a breath, man. I'm so excited about that. So now we have an isthmus to talk about. That's
now
how
we
Panama
have an
was
isthmus
formed.
to talk about. Now there is land.
Mm-hmm.
There is land that formed, and way back when, what were people doing back in the old country, back in Europe, in those places? They were like, let's explore. It was a time of explorers and conquistadors, and people wanted to discover new places and claim them for the king and queen and whoever, man.
Yeah.
So what happened?
Yeah.
People started traveling.
They started traveling. They want spices. Spices were important.
That's right. The spice route.
Yeah. So spices are coming up. Like the Europeans are like, oh my God, there's all kinds of spices coming from down yonder.
Mm-hmm.
We got to make more of that moolah, that European point of view about got to get the spices, gotta make that money, gotta corner the trade.
Yeah.
I mean, if we if we went to our spice rack at Publix or at El Rey and we went back in time and we took an iPhone and we took a spice rack and we showed the people back then, they would be completely amazed at the spices. We would be like, oh my God, you're the richest person in the whole world because you have all of these spices.
They'd be like, get your iPhone because you don't have any Wi-Fi or coverage, man. I can't use for anything.
It's like that weird piece of metallic thing. Is that something to chop? Soul. Yeah. So spices were in much demand back in the day.
That's right. And then that takes us to the arrival of a Spanish explorer who goes by the name of Rodrigo de Bastidas, who arrived in Panama in 1502. Indeed. So of course he came to Panama. He rolls up over here and he meets a bunch of different characters. He meets loads of indigenous people. He meets the Gunas, the Chocó, the Guaymi.
There's a lot of indigenous people. There's the names that you might be more familiar with is Kuna, but now they've changed the spelling to match their alphabet, so it's Guna with a G.
Guna.
The Chocó is a European name for the Emberá, and the Guaymi are the Noble Bugle.
That's right.
Yeah. So Manuel Ortiz wrote in. He's like, tell us about the Spanish and how they treated the local indigenous people, how they brought Jesus to the people at the end of the sword. Thank you for bringing that up because we have a bullet point dedicated to that, and because most of the stuff that you find is very Eurocentric. It's very from the point of view of the European. So as Joe was saying, Rodrigo de Bastidas, he came over in 1502, and Columbus, who discovered the New World in 1492, he actually came back to Panama on his fourth expedition, and that was in 1503, I believe, and he met up with a very important person. His name was, I got it right here.
What was his name? Tell us.
El Cuidian, who was as a cacique. And so they landed, and this guy, he was a little nervous about these new people there, and he told them, he's like, look, don't, you have your little settlement here, but don't cross the river. You're not allowed to go across the river. Of course, what do these guys do?
Do whatever they want.
They cross the river.
Yeah.
And so El Cuidian, he knew that they were going to be kind of suspicious people. So he started getting all the chieftains together. And when they did that, they went to talk to the Spaniards, and they captured him, and he tricked them. This is a story that's going to repeat itself.
Mm-hmm.
He tricked them, and they threw him overboard, thinking that because his hands were tied, he would drown, but he didn't. So he actually survived. That was Bartolome Columbus, his brother, and they left, and these indigenous people burned down their village, And a lot of people think that El Cuivian is Uraca, the cacique Uraca, which is very well known in Panama. He's on the penny. There used to be the Parque Uraca.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, there still is the Parque Uraca.
It's a little different now. It's not the same as it was back in the day with the little rides and whatnot. There's a baseball field there, and there's like an open field there. We've had movie nights there. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So to answer your question, I really wanted to mention Uraca because he did something in Panama that no other indigenous people in all North and South America did. He stood up to the Spaniards.
Yeah, man. He did indeed.
So go ahead.
No, he was very crafty, man, to be able to do that, and courageous as well, just to stand up to these guys who were coming through on their horses and stuff.
Right.
Some of them were seen as these mythical sort of beings.
Yeah.
And this guy stood up to them. I mean, ultimately, it's interesting. It would be interesting to see what would have happened if he would have actually succeeded. I mean,
it's very interesting.
He had very few resources compared to the resources that they had going on for these battles.
Right. So they had the old muskets, not the muskets, but they had the ones that look like the horns on the end, you know?
Yeah.
And they had heavy swords and they had horseback. We learned in our last episode with Dan Norman that when they did the excavation of the canal, they found a skeleton of a horse that predates the arrival of Columbus to the New World, which completely changes everything that we know.
Yeah.
You know? So moving right along, we've got a lot of ground to cover, so to speak. Let's talk about Balboa. Balboa had
Vasco Núñez de Balboa.
Vasco Núñez de Balboa. He had now keep in mind, up till now we're talking all about the Caribbean coast, and so they're coming from the east. The Europeans are coming from the east over the Atlantic Ocean, and they're landing in the Caribbean. Balboa had experience in traveling and finding places and exploring around the Darien and the northern Colombian area, and so he suggested that they move their little settlement and create a new city. But on their way towards the Darien, which he considered to have more fertile land, they got into a battle, and he swore to the Virgin Mary that if they survived the battle, he would name the city after her. So they did survive the battle. So one of the earlier settlements was Santa Maria la Antigua de Darien. And there's someone that was on that trip with him was Pizarro, Fernando Pizarro. And that's an important name in the future of conquistadors. But I bring up that name specifically because there's also Hernán Ponce de León was in Panama. And when Uraca, when these attacks were coming, and Pizarro found out that it was Uraca, guess what he did?
What did he do?
He turned around and he fled.
He was like, "I don't want this. I don't
want anything with this guy.
Anything to do with this."
And the same thing with Hernán Ponce de León, who later would become famous for searching for the Fountain of Youth. He was the discoverer of Florida. So I
discover Florida,
right? Just to make this a short answer, how did the Spaniards conquer with the indigenous? Besides the firepower that they had and the weapons, which what did Uraca fight them with? Spears or arrows?
Yeah, bows and arrows.
There's no clear, nothing that I've been able to find that explains that. But in addition to that and plague, there's a lot of the first voyages talk about the city of El Dorado in the Amazon forest, and then 30 years later they came back to try and find it, and it was all gone. A lot of people speculate that that city completely died out due to a plague, and the forest overtook it, and that's why they never found it.
Yeah,
which has always been mythical. So in addition to plague, in addition to just horrible treatment of the indigenous people, they also decided to use religion, and
that's right.
So the religious people of Panama, a lot of people are familiar with some of the things that happened during Carnival. They told the indigenous people that at the time they believed that each tree was a spirit, and they lived as part of the spirit of nature. But they were told if that they didn't convert to Christianity, the spirits in the trees were evil, and they were devils, and they would all go to hell unless they started following Christianity. And that's where you start seeing that character of El Diablico, that's famous in Panama folklore.
Yeah.
Which was, like an indigenous or a local representation of what the missionaries were telling them, that these devils were going to take over their souls unless they converted to Christianity.
Yeah.
That's about a couple hundred years, very overgeneralized and put succinctly, but I hope that does answer your question a little bit.
It's very interesting though, because I think it's one of those things where I guess they kind of saw the indigenous peoples as being ignorant because of their beliefs, and then they just kind of rolled up and said, "You got to believe in what we believe in."
No, they didn't even consider them humans; they considered them beasts.
Animals, yeah, beasts. Which you would think goes completely against what a religion, I guess, when you think about it, if you want to think about it in a positive light, would want to have them understand each other and, learn from each other. But no, the Spanish kind of just showed up and said, this is what we believe is right. So you guys either bow down or get exterminated.
Bow to the sword or bow to the Bible. One of the two, or you're either dying or you're following,
Yeah, that's right.
Now, Balboa, Vasco Núñez de Balboa wasn't a saint by any means, but when he crossed the Isthmus, the Spaniards had this incredible thirst for gold, and I wanted to read a passage.
Let's just recap real quickly. So we got Bastidas who showed up in 1502, and then Vasco Núñez de Balboa who crossed the Isthmus in 1513. So this was about 11 years later.
Indeed.
Let's keep track of the years, because you're going to see how much stuff has happened.
The Spanish thirst for gold was so strong. This is the type of people that were coming over from Europe, were the type of people who would murder and kill to get their personal riches.
Greedy.
So I wanted to share this. Every time I read this, it's from the Florentine Codex. There was a monk that saw that these people were being completely wiped out, and he copied down as much as he could about any part of their life before they were completely obliterated.
Wow.
So this from the Florentine Codex. This is from Mexico, Nahuatl. It says, they were just killing people. This refers to Cortez up in Mexico. So they took out an offering of gold necklaces and stuff like that. And this is what the Nahuatl inscriptions stated. It's translated to Spanish and then English. They lifted up the gold as if they were monkeys, with expressions of joy, as if it put new life into them and lit up their hearts, as if it were certainly something for which they yearn with a great thirst. Their bodies fatten on it, and they hunger violently for it. They crave gold like hungry swine. So that was the reaction.
Terrible.
Yeah, that's the reaction from the indigenous point of view of what was going on in that area at the time. So these guys wanted gold bad. Vasco Núñez said, yeah.
No, it was so funny though, because then you have the indigenous people here who had loads of gold, and for them it was just,
it's like something we found in the ground. It's very malleable.
Yeah,
let's make some trinkets out of it.
Yeah.
So Balboa, he was able to cross the Isthmus, and according to certain transcripts, he didn't lose any of his troops, even though they had. Panama was back then was known as the land of death from tropical diseases.
Yeah, that sounds a bit
whatnot.
far-fetched to me.
Yeah, so he goes to Cacique Comagre, and he's just pissed off. He's like, "This isn't enough gold. You need to find us more gold." And then,
considering that he didn't have any gold to begin with, and he just got some gold, but it's still not enough gold.
Still not enough. We need more.
Yeah.
So Comagre's son, Pancuyaco, got pissed off and he flipped over the table, right? And he's like, "Man, you got to leave us alone. You need to go down south, man. There's an ocean over there, and the people who live down there, they eat off of plates made of gold."
Whoa.
So these guys were like, cha-ching.
It's like, what? Gold plates.
Yeah, gold plates, gold chalices. They drink out of, their crunk cups were made out of gold.
Man, that's pimping.
So guess what happened after that?
They're like, peace. And they headed out.
They headed out.
That place.
They headed out, and that's when Vasco Núñez de Balboa crossed the Isthmus of Panama near Darien, and to find the legendary Southern Sea. And that's what would ultimately be known as the Pacific Ocean. And the people who drank from and ate from gold cups were the people in Peru, who Pizarro, who ran away from Urraca, eventually would conquer.
I guess he was like, hey, if I want to get some of this gold, I better, grow up here and try and get something done.
He had to go 3 times. Finally, on his 3rd visit, he was able to murder, death, kill everyone. And
is that why they say 3rd time's a charm because of him, or is that completely unrelated?
I don't know, but violence ensued. So
seriously,
yeah. So that's now we're on the Pacific Ocean. We've crossed the Isthmus. We're no longer in the Caribbean. We're not on the, the Europeans come from the east. Mm-hmm. They landed in Panama. They're based out of Hispaniola, and then they crossed the Isthmus, and they had settlements on the Pacific coast.
And that takes us to 1519, the founding of Panama City by Pedrarias Dávila.
Indeed, and that was the theme of the song that we wrote together in collaboration with Shorty and Slim. It has all the dates. It has a lot of historical moments, and so Pedrarias was not a very kind person.
He was not. He was not.
No, he was. He was very fearful of the charisma of Vasco Núñez de Balboa. Balboa actually married his daughter off to Balboa, trying to control him. But eventually he just had him beheaded.
I mean, what can you do, right?
Yeah, it's like, this young kid is too popular. Off with his head.
It was 1519. You could kill somebody and just get away with it.
It's like, he was talking to his daughter, having a sip of tea, like, that husband of yours, I say, mame cae mal. I don't like that guy.
Yeah.
Chop him head off.
Chop his head off, and he did. And
so now we're around the area of what is modern day Panama City. It was an old fishing village.
Out by the sea.
Village. Yeah. That's when Pedrarias got from the Rey de España Real Cédula to form the city, the Panama City.
That's right.
So I wanted to show some flags here. Let's see if I can do this easily.
Show us those flags, man. Show us those flags.
So when they founded the city, Spain sent, and actually, we gotta put this in context because it took a long time. If they had the internet or even telegraphs or carrier pigeons or something like that, Balboa probably would have been saved because he was charged and they sent the letters to England. And by the time the king and queen wrote back, like, hey, no, don't kill that guy.
Don't kill this guy. We like him.
We like him. Don't kill him. They open the thing. They're like, oops, he's been dead for like 6 months.
Super dead.
Yeah. Super dead. So, it took a while for, they founded the city. And the actual cedula that came from the King of Spain was in 1522. So it was a few years later.
Snap, it was indeed.
So things were a little more relaxed as far as communication go.
I know, man. Nobody was in a rush. People took their time.
Nobody was in a rush.
They sent a letter, they'll be like, I'll get an answer in like a year. No biggie.
So let's take a look at the flag of Spain. Notice the crown, the colors, and the lion and the castle here.
Mm-hmm.
They with the Real Cédula, I keep saying it in rhyme because that's how it's written in the song. So make sure you go to
just a rhyme slinger.
I'm a rhymester. What can I do? check out the flag that they sent. Here's the escudo of the municipio de Panama currently. So you have the crown, you have the castles and the lions, but then you have the addition of ships and this other stuff. So to this day, the municipio de Panama carries this shield and this flag, which is originally a gift from Spain.
Word. And we kept it.
We kept it.
And so just a quick recap then about the relationship with Spain then, because we had Panama City formed, right? And then in Panama City, we would get all the gold that we got, after Pizarro finally conquered Peru and he managed to get the gold, started shipping that to Panama. And then from Panama, that would get sent by a mule or pack animals to Nombre de Dios or Portobelo on the Caribbean coast. And from there, it would be shipped over to Spain. So they had a really kind of interesting network set up, connectivity, where they had a bunch of animals carrying a bunch of gold.
Right.
From Peru to Panama, Spain.
Yeah. I mean, just tons and tons of goods. And we can consider this, from a Eurocentric point of view, the second great era of Panama and its influence on the world. Just so much gold and silver were coming out of South America. Pearls were coming from the Pearless Islands. It's huge, innumerable.
Can you
pearls.
imagine? Wow.
Contadora has that name because that's where they would count things.
Wow.
So original. We count the riches. What are we going to call this place? Contadora. That's why I named my apartment Drinkadora.
Because that is where you drink things. I like it. Very original.
Indeed.
Very original. And HB, what happens when someone gets nice things and they start to flaunt it that they have these nice things?
Well, so Spain is like they're flashing their fat stack. They got the bills. They're flashing it around.
Making it rain. Making it rain.
So depending on your point of view, what you do is you have loyal buccaneers and you send them out to do the work of your local crown. Or from the other point of view, you've got pirates, matey. So if you're the one doing the stealing, it's honorable. You're a buccaneer.
Truth. You're making a living, an honest living.
You're a corsair, you're a valiant defender of the crown's interests.
Yeah.
But if you're on the receiving end of a cannon, you're a pirate.
That's right.
So, and there's also independent pirates, but for the most part, they were under the contract for the different countries, notably England.
That's right. That is correct. So in 1595, a very popular guy by the name of Sir Francis Drake makes an attempt at sacking Old Panama. Rolled up, tried to send his forces across the Isthmus to Panama City to take all the gold. So he landed
1595. He landed on the Caribbean side of the Isthmus. And a lot of people who dive there, maybe people who have gone to the Caribbean side to scuba dive or skin dive or whatnot, probably know Drake's Island in the near Portobello.
That's right. Supposedly his body is somewhere in the waters of Panama, right? I don't think they ever actually found it.
I don't think they ever found it, no. But his ghost is definitely there.
His ghost is there. Snap.
Yeah.
So he died, man. And now Sir Francis Drake, you could consider him to be a pirate or an explorer. I know people that say he was an explorer. He was an English explorer that was exploring, and things got heated. But he was exploring.
Okay.
And then afterwards, when he failed, 1671. So I'm guessing things were relatively calm from 1595.
Well, I mean, these are major events. A lot of stuff was happening. For the most part, when you consider how much silver and gold's coming across, an interesting thing started happening though, is that Spain started some reason going bankrupt.
How could they go bankrupt when they're getting so much gold and silver and spice?
Indeed,
everything nice.
And the white gold
Cocaine?
Not the same as in the 80s, but sugar.
Yes.
We talked about
That
this
was
in
my
our rum
second guess.
episode. Yeah. Yeah. Good first guess, though.
Thank you.
So all the Caribbean, the sugar barons of the Caribbean were actually considered to be more wealthy than the kings and queens in Europe. Can you imagine that?
Damn those sugar barons.
Yeah.
Them and their sugar, making their
That's where we
rums.
got rum.
Truth.
So like we're jumping over a lot of the slave trade and stuff like that, but it is very important to consider. There's a lot of slavery going on.
That's right.
When the indigenous people had become so thin, I mean, in the Caribbean islands, the Tainos were almost completely wiped out, if not completely wiped out. They more or less integrated with, through rape and pillage. They became what's unaffectionately known as mulattoes, and mixing of slave, Spaniard, and Taino. A very violent time.
Yeah.
I don't want to gloss over the violence that was happening here.
No, of course. I mean, it was abundant.
It was just.
It was everywhere.
I mean, millions and millions of people were just exterminated for the conquest and hunger of gold and riches. So
it's really funny. I remember when I was in elementary school. Sorry, it's not funny.
No.
It's just interesting. When I was in elementary school growing up in the U.S., we used to, I don't know if the U.S. still celebrates Columbus Day. Is that still a thing?
Yeah.
But I remember growing up, it was always like Columbus, Columbus, and there was a song we used to sing that was like Columbus sailed on the ocean in 1492, and though he didn't find India, he found a country for me and you. And we were like, yeah, Columbus, way to go, man.
Ooh, yeah, that's all you
know.
And then I did learn something. I learned how to read. In school, I learned how to read. And then one of the interesting things about Columbus is that he more or less knew that he hadn't found the New World.
Right.
And he purposely made, this is a theory, purposely made the maps inaccurate because he would lose his charter. He was given a charter to find the New World. And upon knowing that he had not found the New World, he was given a charter to find
India.
The Indies, to go to find a Western route to the Indies, to India, where he could get all these valuable spices. But no one ever, considered that they would run into a giant landmass called the Western Hemisphere, even though the Vikings did it much earlier, and the Polynesians landed in South America much earlier as well. So a lot of the maps were purposely inaccurate, and he continued calling the New World the Indies on purpose so that he wouldn't lose his charter and lose face with the royalty in Spain.
Was that the first time we had fake news?
Super fake news.
Super fake news. Man, and I thought that was a new thing for like 2020. No. Fake news has been around for ages, since the 1500s, 1600s.
Yes, indeed, 1600s. So, I mean, we have a big jump in time from when Francis Drake tried to sack Old Panama. What's that? 76 years difference,
Word.
So that's quite a bit of difference in time, some 70 years. But Panama was still, even though it was super important, was kind of treated like a backwater, and that's a situation that would reoccur throughout its very, very important history.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
indeed.
I mean, one of the things that we've talked about before, and is a point of pride for you. Oh, I think I'm getting ahead of myself. We'll wait for after that. So let's move on to our next point. The next Corsair or Buccaneer, our next bullet point.
Explorer.
Our next explorer.
Our next explorer was, you guys know him as Captain Morgan. We know him as Sir Henry Morgan. And he rolled up to Panama, rum in hand, 1671. Now, this guy was a Welsh explorer, and, he wanted to get stuff popping up in Panama. So what did he do? He sacked it. He sacked Old Panama. But I've also heard, that the PP sacked it very hard. But then I also hear that the people that were there, they set it on fire. That was their defensive technique. They were like, "Oh, this guy's coming. Let's set these buildings on fire." What do you know about that, HB?
Well, I mean,
Because all I know now is we have some ruins.
We have some ruins. So just remember that he had to first sack Portobello.
That's right.
And Portobello changed hands a few times. And also Nombre de Dios, there's a lot of shenanigans going on.
Yeah.
A lot of peace treaties, and then of course with the delay of mail, you think the U.S. Postal Service is slow. You think the Panama Postal Service is slow. Forget it, man. Ship mail is a lot slower than snail mail.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, there would be a peace treaty between England and Spain, and then people would just go on sacking stuff. They put Henry Morgan in chains, and they're like, "Wait a second, that letter hadn't arrived yet. I just didn't know." They're like, "Oh, you didn't know? Take the shackles off.
Yeah.
Give him back Jamaica."
Yeah, and he went to Jamaica for sure.
Yeah. So Henry
he was made
Morgan,
lieutenant governor of Jamaica.
Indeed. So he, in the sacking of Old Panama, he had to cross the Isthmus, which, as we know, is a treacherous journey.
Yeah.
He landed in Portobello. I might be wrong on that one, but he landed on the Caribbean coast.
That's right.
Crossed the Isthmus, and to have his vantage point over the city, he climbed Ancon Hill, where currently there's a flag flying. Historical tidbit: that is the largest flag of Panama, the size of a tennis court.
It's massive.
So it's massive. So they creep up on Ancon Hill. They got their little that pirate thing that they use, the little telescoping thing.
They're like, "I see them. There they are."
They're like, "I see that famous church tower."
That's right.
So, I mean, what could the population be at this time? It could be in the low hundreds.
Yeah.
So Morgan goes to sack Panama City, and one of the current historical viewpoints is that the alcalde, or the person in charge, in order for Morgan not to get the stockpiles there, he lit the gunpowder room on fire to protect the city. I don't know how true that is, but there is another legend that is very popular for me personally. It's the Church of the Golden Altar. So there was so much gold coming through that they decided to make a church with a golden altar, and
entirely.
A lot of the churches had gold leaf or maybe gold flecked paint. But this one in particular was unique because it was gilded. It actually had, like a millimeter of gold all over it. So when the monks heard that Morgan was coming to sack the city, they painted it an ochre color, like an ugly, muddy red color.
Right.
And there's two versions of the story. Let's change to our here. Now we're pirates. Let's change to so they painted an altar, an ugly ochre color.
Right.
And one version of the story is that Morgan came into the church and he said to the monks, this is the the most disappointing altar I've ever seen. Flipped them a coin and told them to get a better altar before he left. And the other version of it is that the pirate Henry Morgan came in and the monks were like, "Oh, please have mercy on us. Look at our very disappointing altar.
It's so humble.
You are so humble. Would you leave us some money so that we can get a better altar?" And this version of legend goes, "You guys are bigger pirates than I am." And then he flipped them a coin. So,
wow.
That's two versions of the legend. I don't think either of them's true, but it's fun to.
Hey, and just to give some context, my friend, of what this raid was like, because from what I could understand, in Panama City there were about 1,200 Spanish infantry and 400 cavalry in the city, and then Morgan rolled up with a party that was about 300 people, right? So they attacked. So they were outnumbered completely. But I guess these were all very experienced pirates. They knew a thing or two about the battles and stuff.
rootin' and tootin'.
For sure.
The sword
And
play.
then the Spaniards that were in Panama City were just like, joder, tío. Like, they had no idea what was going on. They were like,
They're like,
I don't want to fight. I don't
like
want to fight.
none of this gold is staying in my pocket.
Yeah, it's not staying in my pocket. They're going to build an altar out of it, and then somebody else is going to admire it like 500 years from now. So then they rolled up, and they kicked the crap out of the Spanish infantry that was there. These pirates did. And then apparently, and this is information that I got from Wikipedia, while it was happening, the governor of Panama was like, I know what's going to turn the tide on this. I'm going to release herds of oxen and bulls into the battlefield so that they'll smash the pirates. But then you know what happened, HP? When
What
the
happened, Joe?
oxen and the bulls heard the noise and the ruckus, they got scared. And they turned around, and then they trampled all over the dudes that released them.
Oh, man.
I know. Talk about a bad idea, or a good idea gone bad.
Good idea gone bad. So, like you said, the few conquered the many.
Yeah.
Morgan got knighted, right?
Yeah.
And what are they going to do in Panama? They still have the mule trains are still going on.
I mean, they can't close for business.
Can't close it, but they're in a business of money, dog. You gotta keep trooping on.
No doubt. So then these guys were like, yo, we gotta set up shop somewhere else, man. We gotta find another safe house where we can keep ourselves safe from these mofos when they roll up with their hunger for gold.
Right. I mean, how is it that a few hundred took over thousands? There's a few things to consider here. You have a Ancon Hill looking over a flat area, and then you have the Bay of Panama, which is a mud flat. We talked about that before.
For sure, mud fishes.
So it was a fishing village, but that means that anyone could land there, you know?
Yeah.
So where do you put the cannons in a place like that?
Yeah.
Where do you...
And you're totally exposed. I mean, what I don't understand is you had all these military dudes here. They couldn't see Ancon Hill and be like, hey, man, let me put some dudes up there. Or a tower or something.
Up there with some tower. That's why, for lack of better knowledge, I keep saying that Panama was treated like a backwater. It wasn't really given the strategic importance that it deserved, and these things happen. So, in looking for a new city, they had to make change, man. It was like we can't be getting our booty kicked all around all the time.
Oh man, we gotta stand up for ourselves.
Yeah, we need somewhere more defensible. We need to.
That's right.
We need to strategize.
That's right.
We need to
play
a game of Risk. Play some Risk. That takes forever.
It does.
So they kind of looked around. When you play Risk, everyone knows what's the best property to get that's more easily defensible. So they found a new spot, and that's actually where I'm broadcasting from, Casco Viejo.
Yes, HP is broadcasting from the home of Henry Morgan as we speak.
Yeah, Henry Tui. Not drinking Captain Morgan.
Sir Henry Tui.
Sir Henry Tui, I like it. I've just been knighted. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. So what makes this location a little bit better? I had hoped to have a map. Casco Viejo is a peninsula, or as I like to refer to it, the nipple of Panama. Here we go.
Yeah, very true.
It's a neeper. It's got neep action going on. See here?
Let's just give a quick date check. Old Panama got sacked 1671. Casco Viejo 1674. That's 3 years later.
3 years later. So they were looking around, and you're going to hear some key words here. If you look at the shape of this, it's got water on all sides. It's thin here, so you could make.
Sorry, we've got some feedback on Instagram.
Okay.
From Kelly Walsh says, I had read that they killed the animals, cows, pigs, chickens, and poisoned any nearby wells and sources. They left nothing behind while leaving Panama Viejo so that the pirates couldn't eat or drink anything.
So they salted the earth. They wanted to leave nothing that the Morgans or the pirates could take advantage of. Shout out to Sean Williams. He's talking about the pirate Morgan flipping a coin. He said 2 sides of the same coin. Indeed.
No doubt.
Spanish
no
8.
Doubt.
Lori Keller says, fake news since the dawn of humanity. Yeah.
Truth.
Going on.
Truth.
So going back to the picture of Panama, let's look at it. You've got it's a little peninsula. As again, I love saying this, the nipple of
The
Panama,
nipple of Panama.
the teat
The
from
teat.
which gold and silver would flow. If
The
you look at
life-giving teat.
the life-giving teat. So what do you need? You need a defensible area. You need a source of water, and you need to be able to raise protection. So
That's right.
a lot of you people, I'm going to say this, you're going to recognize this word, have heard of El Chorrillo.
Yes.
You've never
Yes.
given a thought to what is a chorrillo? What is a chorro?
Tell us, HB.
It's a waterfall.
What?
Chorrillo means waterfall. There's your source of water at the base of Ancon Hill.
Oh my gosh.
Was a permanent and abundant source of water. Now you need to make it defensible. So
That's right.
if we look at it, when the tide goes out, it's rocks everywhere and very shallow rocks. So that means that it was very hard for ships to approach Casco Viejo. They couldn't approach it easily.
True that.
So you had the Puerta de Agua, or the sea door, which is where the Presidencia is, or where the fish market used to be, or the Muelle Fiscal used to be. You have to kind of go around the corner in order to get close enough to shoot your cannons.
Right.
Hey, that's defensible.
Perfect.
You put cannons on the wall. Anyone gets close, paca, paca, paca.
Bala.
Shoot them ras.
Bala.
So another thing that was done is they created a wall on the outskirts of the city, and that was the Puerta de Tierra. And if you come to Casco now, you can see some remnants of that.
That's right.
Just another interesting tidbit is they've just restored the saxon, or the horn, recently. I'd say about a year or two ago, that toots every night at the same time. You can hear it. This is a tradition kept up from back in the day, where at 6 p.m. they would ring a bell, and all the non-whites had to leave the city. They had to go outside
Word.
of Puerta de Tierra.
Word.
So you know
And
that.
just a quick recap on who was the lead person behind the construction of Casco Viejo, of Casco Antiguo. It was a Spanish conquistador by the name of Alonso Mercado de Villacorta. So I'm guessing these guys got rid of the guys who were like, let's build where old Panama is, because they were like, you guys don't know anything. So they brought Alonso in, and he was like, yo, I'm gonna set
Alonso
you
had
guys
the
up.
know-how.
He had the know-how indeed.
Yeah. So I want to make a shout out here. What's one of your favorite things that we've talked about several times? There was some efforts going on by other countries in Panama, in the Darien. Can you share some of your knowledge about that?
Truth, no doubt, man. Around this time, 1674, we're at. Well, in 1695, man, Scotland tried to set up their own trade empire based out of Darien, man. You guys may know this as the Darien scheme, which later turned out to be the Darien disaster. This guy by the name of William Patterson, he went up to Scotland. He was like, yo, Scotland, you guys got to step out of the shadow of England. You guys have the right, you guys have the might to be a trade powerhouse. I know this beautiful spot in Central America where the soil is fantastic, the weather is wonderful, man. We can kick it old school and make some monies.
Money.
That's right. So then what did Scotland do, man? Hey, they were like, hey, take our money, man. They put all the money in a chest. They set sail to Darien, and when they got there, it was a lot worse than they expected.
Yep.
And, at first they were like, okay, we can make it work, but then they realized they couldn't make it work. And then even though they made friends with the indigenous communities there, very nice to see the Scotsmen working side by side with the indigenous people in order to defend themselves from the Spaniards who were in Panama City. The English was still there as well, and they were like, hey, we don't want to see Scotland make it through this, so we're not going to let them. And then, when you have the might of the Spanish Empire and the English king going against you, man, ultimately Scotland was not able to succeed. There's still some remnants of that Scottish colonization in Darien. I myself have never seen it. Once I had the opportunity to go, but I wasn't able to because I was not in the country at that time, so I wasn't able to go. But man, I always have that thought in my mind. What would have happened if Scotland would have succeeded, man? Would we right now be rocking some kilts, playing the bagpipe?
Rocking some kilts, and maybe we'd have some Scotch whiskey to go along with our delicious rums.
That's right, man. Or maybe a new hybrid whiskey rum type thing.
Exactly. They would have found some seaweed and made some peaty type of
peaty seaweed snacks.
Yeah, peaty seaweed snack. I want to give a shout out. One of my dear friends, Dorita Avila, wrote a book.
No doubt.
It's called Across a Blood-Stained Isthmus. You can find it on Amazon. It's a historical fiction based upon a Scotsman who comes to Panama and his trials and tribulations here. And you know, I was able to see a little bit of it in its early stages, and I can tell you that I really very much enjoyed it. I'm going to get my hands on one of these in December.
When is it coming to Panama? Because I want to get one. I want to get one.
Signed by the author.
Yes, I would like one as well.
You can see the cover art here. Please look that up if you're interested in you know, a little historical fiction based around the Scotch endeavor in Panama. Across a Bloodstained Isthmus by Dorita Avila is available on Amazon right now on Kindle and paperback. And I look forward to getting my hands on my own copy.
Historical fiction, guys, and that's, I mean, there's so many things that you can think of happening during that time. So I'm definitely looking forward to getting a copy of that book.
Yes, I mean, she went to Scotland and she did her research in Scotland. She did her research here in Panama, and had been working on this book for a long time. And I'm very proud of her for getting it published. The cover art looks amazing.
Indeed.
And I wish her the best of luck on that. So check that out, people.
For sure. And just to bring a close to the Scottish endeavor. So Scotland failed. They were bankrupt. Then what happened? Acts of the Union, 1707. Scotland finds itself needing to unite to England in order to succeed. And thus the United Kingdom was born.
Indeed.
Because of Panama.
Indeed.
Who would have thought?
So yet another instance of Panama changing world economics. All right, so we've got more history coming. What year are we in now?
We are in
1674, 1690s, right?
We just did 1690s, which is when the Scottish people were in Darien attempting to do their thing. And next on our list of bullet points is 1751.
I want to go back a few years.
Let's go back.
I want to go back around 30 years to 1727.
All right.
And another one of my favorite legends was the Battle of Portobello. So
walk us through that, man.
The English still, this is, you know, how many hundreds of years is going by that the English and the Spanish are blowing each other up in Panama and all over the Caribbean over their pursuit of gold. But this one has a lot of key points in it that make it an interesting story, amongst others. There's so many fascinating stories. The Battle of Portobello was headed by an admiral, and his idea was, if you think of Portobello, there's a strait there, which on each side there's cannons. So to get to Portobello, it's very well defended. So you have to go through the strait, and there's cannons surrounding, so any ships would be able to be fended off with cannon fire. But this particular admiral was he took a different approach. He took more of the blitzkrieg approach, where small and fast, or like fast break in basketball. You know, let's keep it small, let's keep it fast, let's shoot in there. They had spies go into the cannon buildings, take those guys out, and they took their ships right into Portobello and they took it over. And the reason why I like this story is because George Washington named his estate in the United States after the admiral, Admiral Vernon. And
Mount Vernon.
George Washington, exactly. Mount Vernon was named after this admiral. What's the connection there? George Washington's brother served with Admiral Vernon on the Battle of Portobello.
Look at that.
Went back, told George Washington, this guy's a badass.
Right.
They were so impressed by the activities of this admiral that they named their estate Mount Vernon. So the powers that be They were like, hey, this Vernon, he's good at blowing stuff up. Let's have him go down and make an invasion of Cartagena. You know,
Yeah.
they've got more riches down there. Let's have him send them down there. And he's like, no, we can't do it. It's not going to work. They're like, no, we'll give you more ships. We'll just invade it. But you're in charge. He's like, well, the only reason this worked in Portobello is because we were small and fast.
No doubt.
They forced him to go down to Cartagena with a huge armada.
And he was like, I don't want to do this, guys. I don't want to do this.
I don't want to do this. And he got defeated by a one-armed, one-legged, one-eyed Spaniard. See if I can find his name. Who just kicked his ass. The guy in charge of Cartagena at the time was just this salty old Spaniard that he lost an arm, he lost a leg, he only had one eye, and he kicked Vernon's butt up and down the coast.
Man. I bet Vernon was like, man, I should have stayed home today, man.
Should have stayed home.
Not a good day to go out to Cartagena.
No. Here's a Francisco Javier Martinez de la Vega.
Man, that's a powerful name.
Yeah. So let's keep moving on. We're in 1751.
1751, that is correct, Mundo, man. In 1751, Panama City and the area around it became part of the Viceroyalty of New Granada. So we were still a part of Spain at this time. And at New Granada, what was New Granada composed of? I think it was several countries in the region where
Absolutely.
in this New Granada.
You have
Venezuela,
Panama, Venezuela, Ecuador, Colombia, Peru.
That's right.
So parts of Central America.
Basically, Spain was still doing their thing, and they were controlling a hefty sector, a hefty chunk, I think, of the region. Still controlling their gold, still controlling the silver, still controlling everything that was coming out of Peru, and they were shipping it back to Spain, making some money for the crown. It's funny though, just because, I mean, even though you do have this kind of like large landmass, which still, I would imagine, has a sustainable, like a pretty rich amount of soldiers and infantry, you're still getting attacked by pirates left and right. I would not be able to sleep, man. I'd be like, man, just leave me alone already.
Right.
Go do something else.
I've dropped so much knowledge. I got a little numb. I need to refill on the rums. Get my historical.
Yeah.
My flux capacitor is drying out a little bit.
Yeah, man. Hey, so I'm gonna say I'm aware of the time. It's 4:15. I seriously doubt we're gonna be able to get through all the history of Panama today, unless we really just like plow through it in a blitzkrieg style way.
Before we move forward,
yeah,
I want one last historical thing. Panama is in possession of the oldest map that has its actual borders, and so I think it's 350 years old. Boy. So way back in the day, even though there was the formation of the Nueva Granada and the Gran Colombia and all things like that, there exists a map that more or less is the same boundaries as what Panama finds itself today. So really? that's a point of pride among Panamanians.
Interesting. So it was destined. It was meant to be. Destined.
Panama.
It was written in the stars. What's that word that we kept on hearing for a while? Providencial. Was that the word?
Providence.
Yes. It was Providence. So that takes us forward to 1821, HB. And what did we celebrate yesterday?
Yesterday we celebrated Panama's independence from Spain, 199 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll tell that to your mammy.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Tell that to your auntie, your uncle, your nanny, your granny.
Everyone.
Panama got its independence from Spain.
Yep.
But they jumped out of the frying pan into the fire.
That's right.
They spent, I think, a few years of independence, and then they decided to join the Gran Colombia almost immediately.
Because, I guess they felt lonely. They must have been like, oh, man, we miss somebody stepping on our neck and making us feel like we're not worth anything. We want to feel like the backwater again.
Yeah, that's the thing is that there was no governance in Panama. I meant to keep track of the growth of Panama. I think at this time there's probably around 6,000 or 7,000 people in Panama City. And
So it's still, I mean, it's relatively large, but still not like.
it's probably right. But one of the odd things about Panama is that it's odd for a bi-coastal country to have its main city on the Pacific. You know, it's been that way since the
You would
founding.
expect it to be. Yeah, you would expect it to be on the other side.
So one of the interesting things, one of my favorite tourism stops, when friends or family comes into Casco Viejo and they want a tour to see everything, I take them to the Chancilleria here in here in Casco Viejo.
Mm-hmm.
And on the floor, they've inlaid a compass. So the streets, unlike the rest of the streets in Panama, the streets in Casco Viejo are set up on the meridians of the compass, north, south, east, and west.
Right.
So I take people and I make them stand on the eastern meridian, and then they're looking directly at a bust of Simón Bolívar. So if you stand on the eastern meridian and you look straight, there's a bust of Simón Bolívar, and
Right.
just past his bust is the Pacific Ocean. Now, the reason why I do this is because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in Panama City, in Panama in general, it's one of the only places, excluding islands, where you can watch the sun rise over the Pacific Ocean.
Wild.
So that's kind of hard to wrap your head around because of the way Panama is situated. It's kind of twisted, Panama runs east and west. So when you stand on this giant compass on the floor, you're looking at the bust of
Simón Bolívar.
and on the engraving of that bust, it says, if the world had to choose its capital, Panama should serve that august duty, or it should have that noble duty, because it has the two continents, north and south. It has Europe and Africa to the east, and it has Asia and India to the west. So to help people visualize, I tell people, this. If you look at the United States, on the East Coast you have New York, right? And on the West Coast you have Los Angeles. East Coast is the Atlantic Ocean, and the sun rises there. But in Panama, you're standing on the eastern compass point on the floor of the Chancilleria. You're looking at the Pacific Ocean, and still it's hard to fathom that that's where the sun rises every day.
Right.
Pacific Ocean.
That's wild, man. What do people say when you put them there and you're like, check this out?
They do the Hooters waitress look. They're like, oh,
What?
oh? Like, what's my tab? Oh.
That's wild, man. That's wild.
Wild and wacky. That always blows my mind. So let's move from pirates to our little sombrero pintado and our Panamanian flags. We're getting closer to a date.
We're
It's
getting
before
closer.
these flags came out, but this is where Joe and I are going to start showing our patriotism.
That's right. Because we're now at 1846. And if our sources are correct, this is when Panama enters into an agreement with another country that would become very important to its development. So first we had Spain. Then we had Colombia. And now we have the United States of America. In 1846, Panama signed a treaty with the U.S. allowing it to build a railway across the Isthmus. Now, this was a railway that would be huge in terms to Panama growing and progressing forward.
So this is yet another historical marker of when Panama impacted the world. This time economically, because gold had recently, probably 49ers, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's when gold was discovered in California. And people could spend 2 or 3 generations crossing the United States and dying of cholera, as we all know from playing
Oregon Trail, man.
Or you could go around the southern tip of South America, or you could cross Panama, which was rife with robbers and violence at the time. We did a whole episode on that.
That's right. On the great man, the legend, the myth, Ran Runnels, the hangman of Panama, El Verdugo de Panama, played a key role in getting the railroad up and running in Panama.
Indeed. There was a lot of people sacking, people crossing the trail. General Grant actually came to Panama on orders from Lincoln. Officially, he was taking a regiment to San Francisco. Extra officially, he was checking out the viability of building a canal through Panama. Also, Spain had done that previously. I think it was Carlos V, or no, it was Philip. Philip had asked him the viability of building a canal in Panama during the Spanish colonial era. And finally, they gave up, and they said if God had wanted a canal there, he would have made it there. So they kind of fell back on religious reasons for not doing it.
That's a massive cop-out, man.
Yeah. Maybe it was Carlos. I can't remember. Anyway, Google it.
That's right. But hey, you know who wasn't blaming religion for not putting a canal there? The French, dog.
That's right.
Because even though the U.S. had their railway and they were making it happen in the 1880s, the French were like, Je m'appelle Canal du Panama, and they attempted to build a canal in the Isthmus, man. But you know what happened? You know what happened?
I do.
Tell them what happened.
No, there were several factors here. One was, and we talked a lot about it last week with Danny when we had the mega projects podcast. Check that out. It's still up on Facebook Live.
That's right.
On our page. One was geographically, de Lesseps had come from Egypt, from Suez, where it was sand and relatively flat, and he built a sea level canal. He came to Panama, and against the better judgment, you know, a lot of the architects and the noblemen who were the education level people in France, Lafitte, I can't remember his name. He's the one that actually suggested that the French make a lock system. Lepine, Lafitte de Lepine.
So he came at them with the proper knowledge. He was like, guys, this is what you got to do.
They had these congresses in France. They're like, this is the right way to do it. This guy was a little headstrong, man. This guy, Lesseps.
He was like, no, man, I got this. I did it already. You don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know what you're talking about, man. One place is sand. The other place is jungle. One place is flat. The other place is mountainous. One place, you know, has like same sea levels between the two places that they're digging. This place had a huge tidal variation. I mean, the Atlantic Ocean has a tidal variance of 12 inches, which is, hold on, about this much. And the Pacific Ocean has a tidal variance of 12 feet.
Man,
even more in some places. So
I think, you know, with his arrogance, De Lesseps is probably like, hey man, check it out. You see that canal over there? Who built it? Did you build it? I built it.
It's like, who's got two thumbs and built a canal in Egypt? This guy. And he was very charismatic, and you know, I mean, in France, like if you say Panama in France, Panamine, and it was a huge point of pride at the time, and then a huge point of failure. In addition to the geographical landscape, there was mismanagement. I mean, they had an insurmountable task in front of them on trying to cut through the Continental Divide. If you imagine trying to build a sea level canal through mountains, what are you going to have, like an alley, you know, like this thin alley? Like,
seriously,
how possible? So what else?
Mosquitoes, dog. They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. And back then they thought that these tropical illnesses were caused by swamp gas. You know, it's like you have what is it? The Sireno?
El Sereno. It's real, people. The Sereno. Don't go outside after 6 or it's going to get you.
The
That's
swamp
what stopped the
gases.
French Canal.
Yeah, the gases come out. You get gassy, and then you die. Turn yellow.
You don't want that gas.
No. Negativo. Stanky gas makes you sick.
That's right.
So, so they had, and also, I wanted to point out that the French accomplished more excavation in their first year than the United States did. Just want to point that out.
All right, go France.
Considering the equipment of the time.
For sure.
So,
hey, I think when you go to, you can still see an area where, like, it's what I've heard. Usually when I'm driving over near that area, that there's a space where it's supposedly where they had started digging already. That it's still visible now. Well, it's full of water, obviously, but
well,
I don't know
if you're on the Atlantic side,
yeah.
On the Pacific side, I think that's where they put the expansion. On the Atlantic side, I'm not sure. That's where the beginning of the Cayuco race. You paddled through it.
That's right.
So the beginning of where you launch your Cayuco on the first day on the Atlantic side is the remnants of the French Canal.
French, man. 20,000 people lost their lives, dog.
Devastating. Devastating. Also, they purchased the railroad and made it part of the French Canal project. All right, so what's next on the timeline, Joe?
What's next on the timeline? Well, you know what's next on the timeline.
Where are we at? We're at the 1880s, right? Now we're moving forward.
We're moving forward, man.
Yeah.
We are moving forward. The French attempt had failed. But who was making moves to become a powerhouse in the region? The United States of America, man.
Indeed.
They were making mad moves. They had this guy named John Hay signing treaties left and right, setting the path, setting the way for what would be a canal through Panama. But you know what happened? He had a treaty called the Hay, which they had signed with Colombia. They were attempting to sign with Colombia. And Colombia, when they thought it was all done and dusted, Colombia was, nah, man, we're not signing this. We don't agree to this. But the U.S. was like, yo, we need to get this canal done.
An interesting point of fact is that John Hay was Abraham Lincoln's personal secretary.
That's right.
So he was also involved in sending Grant through Panama to take a look. There's also several studies all through Central America. Earlier, that was McKinley had sent those to survey, to find other suitable spots. And, a lot of people were afraid of Panama because of what the French had gone through, land of death.
That's right.
I think so many people had died, 20,000 people had died, that they actually sold the cadavers, and there was a boost in medical knowledge because they had cadavers to dissect.
Nice, man. Well, I guess, yeah, if that's what you're into, it's better than snatching bodies from graves and selling them to universities.
Indeed.
That's for sure.
The French had gone through terrible hardship. There's Jules Danglars, Danglars' Folly, his house. He was building his house. And before he could finish building his house, everyone in his family died, his wife and his 3 children. And his son's fiance. He was building this beautiful house on the top of the hill. I think it was in Perejil area. Someone can chime in and correct me there, but everyone in his family died before he could build his house. That's crazy.
That's tragic.
Extremely tragic.
That's tragic. But that takes us to a day that we all know. A day that we just celebrated, HB, in this month of La Patria that we are in. And that is the 3rd of November, 1903. Panama declared independence from Colombia in Panama City. And Panama City was named the capital of Panama.
Indeed. I mean, we're glossing over a lot of stuff. You can find more information about this in our previous episodes.
Yes.
How Roosevelt came to power as the vice president to McKinley. And if he hadn't, then he never would have met Carlos Finley. He never would have met Gorgas in the Spanish-American War. And Gorgas never would have met Carlos Finley in Cuba. And he never would have put Gorgas in charge of sanitation and used Finley's theories that mosquitoes were the cause of yellow fever. So
that's right.
The first thing that happened in Panama, Do you have the population of the time?
Let me see. I can do a quick.
Yeah, send it to the research department.
Yeah, research department. Population of Panama in 1903.
Boom. So,
I think it's safe for us to say that Panama in 1903 was not a nice place to live in, man. It was dank and dirty and disgusting and
yeah, the first thing, and I found written transcripts of the Society of the Chagres where Gorgas actually came down before the signing of the treaty to check things out.
right.
And actually, one of his cohorts, someone that was in his travel party, got arrested for drunkenness.
Oh, typical cohort behavior. Typical.
Yeah. So the first thing they did, was to work on sanitation. They paved all the streets in Panama City and in Colon or Aspinwall, which we can do a whole show about Colon and Aspinwall.
Yeah.
That was created by the railroad. So they worked on sanitation. Stevens put a halt to all construction, and he said, we've got to make this a suitable place to work. Otherwise, we'll fail like the French.
Hey, they even put in like a sewer system. The U.S. was policing Panama as a whole, kept the order. I mean, things were growing rapidly, and it was thanks to the U.S. presence here. I was very surprised at the sewer system, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the sewer system that was put in back in the day is still being used today.
It is actually, well, probably not from that era,
Yeah.
but a lot. One of my friends was a master plumber. We were talking about it years ago.
Yeah.
What's his name? Chris. I can't remember his last name. Anyway, his father was a master plumber in the canal zone.
Right.
And all the tubes that are running along, let's say Perejil area and Central, those are all clay and burlap junctions. So it's big clay pipes with burlap that held wax, and over the years that's completely gone. So there is some intermingling of black and potable water going on there, unfortunately.
No.
Anyway, that's a topic for another. We already did our show on cholera and pandemics.
Yes.
So yeah, this is yet another stage where Panama had influence in the whole world. We had the formation of Panama change the climate all over the world. We had the Spanish arrival on the Isthmus.
Mm-hmm.
Their discovery of the South Sea or the Pacific Ocean.
Because it wasn't there before. FYI.
It wasn't there before. If a tree falls in the woods, do you hear it?
No.
There is a legend that Pancuyaco, the guy who spilled the beans about the South Sea, the natives in Panama say that he still walks that path trying to collect tolls to pay for what he ended up.
His treachery.
His treachery. He didn't think of it as treachery, but
he was just trying to save himself. What?
He was cursed to walk that path forever because of all the death and extinction. Misery that came after him.
For sure.
So anyway, I'm going off on tangents. So much info.
But right now we're between 1904 and 1914, which is when the Panama Canal was being built. Panama City was growing. There were slums, there were cabarets, there were brothels, all the things that you need to keep a thriving community happy. Not to mention, of course, the sewer systems that we already mentioned, and as well as the new law and order, which was brought to Panama thanks to the United States military policing the city. So everything was pretty advancing, viento en popa, as they say.
Yeah. In addition, the World's Fair was about to go on, and you might have heard of this section of the city, La Exposición. That was, there was going to be a lot of people coming to Panama to enjoy the opening of the canal.
Right.
And Panama, on its side, outside of the canal zone, wanted to show visiting countries that they were also up to the task of a place of knowledge and a place of trade. So they built La Exposición.
Amazing.
So you have like the area like Avenida Cuba and all that, where you see those old buildings. You see the Gorgas Memorial Hospital, named after, which was one of the first places to do the genome of the COVID virus.
Hey, no doubt.
So if next time you're walking or you want to take a walking tour, check out La Exposición. It was a complete area of commerce and education that was meant to show the visiting dignitaries of foreign countries that Panama was, also up to the task of supporting world trade alongside the canal. Now, that
Not bad. Reminds me of World Youth Day, man. 2019.
Yeah. So unfortunately, we didn't have the showing, neither for the canal nor for La Exposición de Panama.
Oh man!
Because a big giant war broke out.
Stupid wars always ruin everything.
World War One happened, and my goodness, that was quite a world changer. And at the end of World War One, we had the Spanish flu. So,
wow.
So it's theorized that it was spread by the movement of troops all over the world.
Yes. Yeah.
So that was 100 years ago. The pandemic that we're going through now, we can look back in history and see how they dealt with it back then. A lot of people
exactly. We can learn a lot.
You know what they did, Joe?
What they do?
They were told to wash their hands, put masks on, to keep a social distance.
Oh man! Just that? That sounds so simple and easy to do, HB.
Yeah, if everyone did their part, just wash your hands, wear a mask, and keep your distance, we can try and tame this tiger by the tail.
Oh man. Sounds so simple.
So, public service announcements aside.
That's right.
Panama, there's a lot of the early leaders of Panama really did a great job of creating. There's the Universidad de Panama, which will come up later in the history of Canal and Panamanian relations, but it was a beautiful school. It's still there.
It's still there, and it still looks the same, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry, shouldn't have said that. But, yeah. I think back in the day, people were a bit more like, hey, man, we're independent. Let's do this. Go forward. And I think now it's being said, de los dientes para fuera.
Yeah. Yeah. And Panama, actually, in the 20s, I think it was 1921, they were the first metropolis outside of the United States to have a mass transit system. They had a trolley system.
Whoa. Look at that. So you can still see the tracks, right, in Casco.
They tried to remove those tracks. They're laying the bricks down here in Casco Viejo. And they started taking the tracks out, and people, fortunately, people came to the rescue of this historical. We don't need the tracks anymore, but they are a fixture of that.
For sure,
that our memory that Panama was advanced for the time. Thanks to the injection of not only their independence, but the commerce and influx of
knowledge, education,
and education that came from the U.S. influence.
For sure.
It might be an unpopular opinion on my side, but can't deny the facts. Panama had been treated like a backwater for a long time.
Yeah.
And so in 1903, they got to stand on their own legs. And, every year my opinion changes and evolves a bit. I think one of the things that some of the factors that turned the relationship between the United States and Panama sour, one, World War One, and a lot of troop movement going on.
Right.
And then this one I haven't really read about, but I think Prohibition had a big influence as well.
Right.
You had a lot of U.S. movement in Panama because of the canal, and in the United States, and thus in the canal zone, there was no drinking. But if you take a few steps down the road, you're in Panama, where alcohol was allowed. So,
of course,
that unfortunate side effect of prohibition in the States caused Panama to be a center of debauchery.
Of course, yeah, for sure.
So, a lot of the unfavorable things that happen when you have a line of debaucherous places set up is, I think that's another thing that started souring the relationship between Panama and the United States. I think I'm going to jump ahead too far. What's our next bullet point?
Right now, we're going just into the 1968-1981, so we're jumping ahead like 20 20 years to the beginning of the dictatorship.
Let's go back to 42. We had World War II, so Panama had huge amounts of troop movements in Panama.
For sure.
U.S. movements. And actually, they set up, Panama has more airports per hectare than any country in the world because of World War II. Yeah.
Yep.
And because of the defense system that was set up by the U.S. here in Panama. And you know what? That was also another straw on the back of the camel. There was an incident where the president of Panama was driving through the Pan American Highway, and he stopped in Rio Hato at a military checkpoint, and they wouldn't let him through. He's like, "I'm the president of Panama," and the guy there, as legend would have it, said, "I don't care who you are, you're not getting through this gate." And you know, being the president, I'm sure.
Yeah, man, that would not have gone over too well. I mean, think about it. If you're the president of a country and some guy's like, "No, man, you can't go through here," I would have been like, "I'm sorry."
Right. So I think that definitely would have soured relations. So that's in the mid 40s, maybe late 40s.
Yeah.
And what's next? We're in the 50s. There's a lot of trees in this, you know. Anyway, let's keep moving. Let's move towards we're glossing over.
Yeah, I think everyone's aware that we're doing a superficial trip through the history of Panama City, because we can go on for hours and hours and hours.
There's a very charismatic man that came to power called Arnulfo Arias.
Yes.
He was schooled in Germany.
He was.
And he gets a lot of grief, rightfully so, but the United States was also a fan of eugenics. And it was very popular in the United States. It's a pseudoscience. Hitler was actually Time Man of the Year twice. A lot of people don't know that.
Look at that.
Because of that, the pseudoscience, the belief of watering down the pure race. So Arnulfo Arias was also a fan of that. But in his presidential acceptance speech, he said, "So did the Americans help form Panama, so will we help the Germans win the war." And
that did not go over very well.
It didn't. He actually told Panama on radio broadcasts to turn on all their lights, because with fears of a bombing raid by Japan or Germany, everyone had lights out so that they couldn't identify the canal. So he told all Panamanians to turn their lights on so that the bombers could see where the canal zone was. So that didn't go very well.
I bet it didn't.
So this guy was in and out of power. There was coup attempts and whatnot.
3 times, I think, man. I think he lasted, a year, and then 11 days or something?
Yeah, so, you know, the Tio Sam wasn't happy about that. So there was a few things happening after the end of World War II. We had Cold War policy, East and West Berlin, and the fear of a growing communist situation in
the Americas, man.
In the Americas, right.
And as we all know, communism, no bueno.
No bueno. Nobody likes it. So the United States, this is my guess, there's no actual documentation of this. Somehow, dictatorship was formed here in many countries in Central and South America, and also in the Middle East. So I guess that was the Cold War policy, was to install dictators or people that they thought could be in control.
They could control people, to keep the countries in check, people that would not allow the spread of communism throughout the region, which was a huge fear.
Yeah.
Huge fear. So 1968, after spending, I think it was 11 days in office, Arnulfo Arias, or Fufo as he is more affectionately known, was ousted once again from the presidency by El Generalísimo Omar Torrijos. Yes. And he would go on to stay in power for a long, long time.
Very long time. Now, you know, there a term is used in association with Omar Torrijos of benevolent dictator. I'm not putting a halo on this guy, but I have my Panamanian citizenship due to General Torrijos. And as soon as he said anyone born on Panamanian soil is a Panamanian, my whole family went out and registered to get their cedulas. So
Right.
my grandma, she was born in Culebra. It doesn't even exist now because of the canal.
Yeah.
We owe our Panamanian citizenship to Omar Torrijos.
And you got to keep in mind as well that Arnulfo Arias was keen to get all non-Panamanians out of Panama.
He wanted to castrate all people of yellow and darker skin.
Yeah, he wasn't a fan of immigrants or immigration or any of that type of stuff. So, Omar Torrijos came in, and he was a charismatic guy as well. He was handsome too, and he was well liked, well spoken. He was a guy that if you met him at a party, you'd be like, "Hey, I want to hang out with that guy. He seems like good people."
Mike Bolton was El Gringo, the silent shark diver. Actually got to pal around with Omar Torrijos.
Omar Torrijos, so I'm thinking he wasn't of course, not endorsing dictatorships or dictators or anything like that, but he seems like the type of guy that if he did stuff, dirty business, shady business, he kept it on the low.
He had a henchman.
That's right.
He had a redheaded stepchild. He had the opposite of a redheaded stepchild that he had to take care of these dirty situations. Mm-hmm. But I want to go back to Omar Torrijos.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm losing a lot of names here, but one of the women when I was friends with him set up the archaeology of Panama. She made huge strides in starting and preserving the archaeological heritage of Panama. Oh, I wish I could remember her name right now. Fascinating individual.
Right.
She studied abroad and came back to Panama to try and start preserving the archaeological history. And she had the full support. And I mean, when you have the support of a dictator, you get it done.
That's right.
She made huge strides as far as commemorating and preserving the culture of Panama.
Which I think is something that is definitely needed, especially now. I mean, think about how long Panama Viejo was. The ruins were there, and just nobody really cared too much to make sure that they didn't topple over and stay intact, So for the fact that someone had that vision, even back then, or think about Casco Viejo as well. Remember the whole problem we had with that road, Cinta Costera 3, going around it and all the things they wanted to do to it. I mean, this is our history. This is part of what makes us who we are.
Panama Viejo and Casco Viejo is a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
That's
protected by UNESCO. And Panama was warned that if they built the Cinta Costera around Casco Viejo or Casco Antiguo, that they would revoke their status, which they ended up not doing. But I mean, I think that the Cinta Costera is a travesty. I mean, if you had the Taj Mahal, you wouldn't build a highway around it.
No, you would not.
The ocean in relation to Casco Viejo is of supreme importance, and to block that view, like I said, when you stand on the eastern point of the compass, laid in the ground, looking at the best of Simon Bolivar, looking at the Pacific Ocean, now there's a road there, which is, I think, it breaks my heart.
Yeah, for sure, man. HB, we should do a quick time check. It is 4:49 actually as we speak. We have 10 minutes and we're just entering the dictatorship.
Okay, let's fast forward then. This dictator, he started being more on the side of Panamanians than he was with his buddies in the U.S. So someone else came to power, and that was General Noriega due to an accident.
An accident? Can we use air quotes?
Yeah, accident. A lot of people say it was really an accident. We don't know. We weren't there. Soon we'll find out as documents are going to be released. But then entered the period of Manuel Noriega, who my father had met. My uncle trained with him when the United States. Yeah.
HB, let's not forget to mention one key date that we must mention is 1977, which is when the Torrijos-Carter treaties were signed between Jimmy Carter and Omar Torrijos, which said that Panama would get the canal back in 19 $2,299.
Indeed. Thank you for that.
No problem.
So the canal was a treaty was signed between the United States and Panama, and there are several treaties before that that were never. They were anyway. I'm
Yeah,
going
I
off.
think I'm gonna suggest something.
Go
Instead of
for it.
us fast forwarding through all this information, we should
Mhm.
stop where we
Okay.
are and carry on next week
Beautiful.
because
So
there's
we
too
have
much information that we need to share.
So we're
Too
going to
much
start.
insight, too many
We
experiences.
can end this episode with the Treaty of Panama, the Treaty, Torrijos-Carter Treaty.
That's right. And we'll go into it next week.
Indeed, I was 3 years old when that happened. So I was actually alive when that happened, and I can share my personal experiences. They might be a little jaded, but that's what we're here. We're here to tell stories. We're here to have fun. So
Yeah, man. Share our experiences. I was a twinkle in my mama's eye.
yeah.
I wasn't even around. So
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what happened. But I'm looking forward to hearing HB tell me about it.
And you guys out there listening, if there's anything that happened during today's show that you'd like to hear more about, let us know, man. We love audience participation. We want to hear more from you. If you'd like to hear about certain subjects, I'm a dual citizen. I'm a Zonian. I'm a Panamanian. Jose is Joe was born in Panama, and he grew up in the United States because of Noriega
That's right.
situation. So,
And we actually have plans to do a show dedicated to the invasion, which we hope to do later on in December. So that means that we also have to be very careful with regards to what information we divulge next week.
yeah, we want to lay out our stories. This is content made by Panamanians, made by Zonians, for Panamanians and Zonians, and anyone who likes to have a good time and listen to stories. So send us some chatter, DM us, let us know.
Yeah.
And once we end, we're going to play that song again, Panama City, which Joe and I wrote in collaboration with Shorty and Slim, who many of you are fans of. So in 8 more minutes, we're going to sign off, and we're going to play that song again so you guys can enjoy it. Just remember, you can purchase that at saspanama.bandcamp.com. Joe, how are we going to sign off today? How are we going to put a close to this episode? I'm tuckered out, man. I think I've been talking.
Yeah, man. Hey, man, if there's somebody that knows history, it's HB, man. Sometimes I just want to listen to it and take it all in because it's so much information,
Yeah.
But that's the good thing, because you know what? As I said earlier today, we don't know everything. We only know what we know. And that's why we like to put it out there and let people tell us, like, hey, man, maybe it's this. Hey, man, maybe it's that. Because only by sharing information will we learn.
Exactly.
That's
what I love about this
and
game.
I think there's one of the things that we really enjoy about Panama is learning new things. Because, man, how would I imagine that from 1512 when De Bastidas rolls up? Look at all the stuff that's happened and all the stuff we're going to talk about next week. It's so much stuff.
It's the tip of the iceberg. I mean,
So much stuff.
so much has happened. There's so many stories. Emerald mines in Azuero. The first unlicensed Coca-Cola plant in the world was in the Canal Zone. All these little tidbits of information that just make a place that we know and love that much more fascinating. And we can share it.
That's right.
Share it.
That's right. So you guys got to tune in, man. And like I said, we're thankful that you're joining us and that you guys waited for us from last week. We couldn't be here, but you're here this week. And that's special. That's important. As we say in every show, we're still in a pandemic. There's still COVID out there. HB and I were talking about this earlier today. I think now more than ever, it's important that you stay safe, because just because everything is opening up, it doesn't mean that you're not likely to get COVID. Hopefully you don't get it. I'm hoping none of us get it, and we can ride this through until the vaccine comes around. So just, stay safe when you go out. It's tempting to go out. It's very tempting because you want to go out and see your friends and you want to go have dinner in nice restaurants or lunch or shopping.
That's right. Lori Keller says, thank you. Excellent show. Thank you for tuning in. I'm very glad to have you back after our mega projects. She made some comments there as well. Sue Norman, thanks for entertaining and educating me this afternoon. You guys rock. Big hearts go out to you. Danny Norman's one of my favorite people, and also now a favorite of Joe's. We had an excellent response to that show. So many people. We had over 3,000 views. So, if you guys are out there, share it amongst your friends.
Sure.
We want to start making content that you guys want to see. So just let us know.
That's right. And remember, next week we're gonna enter the Torrijos Carter treaties next week, which is gonna take us straight through the dictatorship era of Panama. Again, we're gonna have a show on the invasion specifically closer to the date, so we're probably gonna make that even more superficial, HB.
Yeah, I think so.
That then we can just kind of talk about, more of our current situation, I guess, from after the invasion. Should be a fun ride, man, because it's always interesting to hear people's points of view about history.
It is. It's very interesting because, unfortunately, when people fade in, when they pass away, that a little bit of history has gone with them.
Mm-hmm.
The risk of quoting Blade Runner, Tears in the Rain. If you guys know of someone that likes to talk, that you think would be a good guest on our show, send them an episode. Tell them to get in touch with us. We love to have guests. We've had some very interesting people. You might want to look back. We had Dan Norman, who worked on the expansion of the canal, born in the canal zone. Before that, we've had, help me out, Joe. We had
Mike Bolton. Of course, we were talking about just all the crazy stuff he does, man.
Guys with great white sharks. My goodness. Before that, who else? We've had a lot of
Hillary Hughes from the baking place by Hill, who was talking to us about cakes and baking and a whole bunch of other. We had like a 3-hour show that day. Theater. Yeah. I mean, we could have talked for hours with Hillary. We had Robert Martin, one of the owners of Intimo Restaurant in Panama City. Great restaurant to go and get some great food, great drinks.
That was a lot of fun. He gave us, he's a master mixologist, so he gave us a lot of tips on how to mix our own drinks. Start with your simple syrups, and that way you'll have control of the flavors. Yeah. 1-to-1 mixture of water and sugar, and then you can add lemon. You could add cinnamon, whatever you want. And that's a great place to get started. That was a lot of fun.
Yo, we also had Metro. Did we talk about Metro already?
I don't think so. Oh, no, we did talk about Metro. That's right. Retired Lieutenant Commander Lucas Metro Robertson.
That's right.
He flies supersonic jets. What a great guy to have on the show to explain what it's like to fly, F-14s. It's a son of the zone. He went into the Navy. He flies these $30 million jets around like it ain't no thing.
Like it ain't no thing. It ain't no thing, man. So we've had some good people. I'm trying to think who else we've had on, man.
Yeah, the rum's getting to me. So
seriously, we've had a lot of good guests, and we're very thankful for all of them.
All of them. We will be turning this into a podcast so that you can download. You can download each episode. You don't have to watch it. You can download each episode as a podcast and listen to it while you're driving. Listen to it while you're doing housework. Maybe when you're mowing the lawn, you want to put your earbuds in and listen to it. Let us know if you want that. I've been sleeping on the job. I need to extract the audio from our previous shows so you guys can do that. And you know what, Joe? Why don't you give us our moment of Zen? Sign us out with some positive thoughts, man.
Some positive thoughts, man. All right. Well, as I said earlier, guys, we're still going through some hard times, but we only make these times as hard as we want them to be. Okay? I know it's difficult. We all want to be out and about with our homies, with our friends, kicking it old school. But we got to just hold on a bit longer, especially now when the holidays are coming up. Mother's Day, we all want to see our mamas. We love our mamas. Christmas, New Year's, we all want to hang out. If you're going to do that, do it in your bubble. Do it in your bubble. Stay safe. There's loads of cases still going out, guys. So if you don't need to go out, try not to go out. Stay home. Work out. Read a book. Listen to Rapscallions.
There you go. All right, so please tune in next week at 3 o'clock Sunday. Same time, same place, same bat channel. And to close us out, we're going to play Shorty and Slim's Panama City English version that me and this guy up here collaborated to write because of our love of the city. We're very proud to have worked with Shorty and Slim on this. And you can find this song and all their albums at saspanama.bandcamp.com. And please don't forget to check out littlebrowndog.aviation.com, where you can get Shorty and Slim t-shirts and Canal Zone t-shirts and mugs. And soon you can find Rapscallions paraphernalia. Thank you very much. Goodbye, y'all.
Peace.
Panama City, Panama City. Welcome to Panama, bella ciudad. Ay, mi Panamá. Bienvenido. king of España. Official doctrine for the fealty to be named Panama City, Panama City, Panama City. Welcome to Panama, bella ciudad, bella mi Panama. Bienvenidos a Panama. A fishing village it was formerly, right upon the coast of the sea. Cathedral tower built up toward the sky. You can hear that bell toll far and wide. At this time within the nation, there was a very small population. Only 100 people or so. First European settlement on Pacific coast. Panama City, Panama City. Welcome to Panama, bella ciudad, ay mi Panama. Bienvenidos a Panama. The Camino Real, it paved the way. And in this Isthmus it had to stay all the way to Nombre de Dios. If you go now, you can hear them ghosts. Whoa! Riches came up out of Peru. Many ship and the pirates knew all the pearls, silver and gold. Panama City was Pacific stronghold. Then they crossed Panama by mule. Tropical diseases was very cruel. Finally arrived to Atlantic coast, departing for Spain from Nombre de Dios. Panama City, Panama City. Welcome to Panama, bella ciudad, ay mi Panama. Bienvenidos a Panama. 15 August 1519, the beginning of a dream. It is important you know this date, because it's the day that we celebrate. 15 August 1519, the beginning of a dream. It is important to know this date, because this is the day that we celebrate. Panama City, Panama City.